Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the world of data, and I found this statistic that's kind of mind-blowing. Did you know, back in 2021, organizations were juggling, on average, 110 SaaS tools? Software as a service apps. But here's the real kicker. Despite all that tech, all the effort collecting data, something like 68% of enterprise data just sits there, unleveraged.
It really is a huge issue, isn't it? Companies invest so much time, so many resources into cleaning, consolidating, governing data in their warehouses. But then those insights, the really valuable stuff they've worked so hard to find, they often just get stuck. They turn into static reports, basically, and their impact on the actual day-to-day business, pretty limited. That's exactly what people mean by the last mile problem in data.
The last mile problem. Yeah, that sounds like a major bottleneck. What's really stopping companies from getting those insights out, to the teams that can actually use them? And how are we tackling that today in our deep dive? So our mission here is to unpack the data flows we often hear about ETL and ELT, and then really dig into this, potentially game-changing idea, reverse ETL. We want to get our heads around how reverse ETL can bridge that gap, right, between the analysis and the action, turning data from like dusty reports into something alive, something that actually powers up every team. Okay, let's get into it.
Right. So for many of you listening, ETL and ELT are probably familiar concepts. But it's worth doing a quick recap, I think, because it really sets the stage for why reverse ETL is becoming so important. Let's start with ETL. Extract, transform, load. This is the classic way. Data gets pulled from source systems, think CRMs, ERPs, that sort of thing. Then it's transformed, cleaned up, enriched, duplicates removed, made ready for whatever system it's going into. And finally, it's loaded into the data warehouse for analysis.
Okay, so a classic example might be like taking customer records from your CRM, like adding in maybe their product usage history or support tickets, standardizing all that data before it even hits the warehouse for the BI tools. That's the sequence.
Exactly, that's the traditional flow. But then came ELT extract, load, transform. This is a newer way, really taking advantage of modern cloud data warehouses. So instead of transforming before loading, you extract the data and load it directly into the warehouse, or maybe a data lake first. The transformation happens after it's landed, using the warehouse's own processing power.
Ah, okay. So ELT flips it, raw data goes in first, and the warehouse itself does the heavy lifting for transformation. That feels like a pretty fundamental shift. I guess the big plus is using that cheaper cloud storage and, the massive compute power available now. But what does that flexibility actually mean day to day?
It means a huge amount of agility. You can actually go back and change your transformations later without losing your original raw data. You're not stuck with decisions made way back when you ingested the data. You just tweak the transformation logic, not the source data. That's incredibly useful as business needs change. And that flexibility, that power in the warehouse leads us perfectly into reverse ETL. Now, it doesn't replace ETL or ELT. It's really a third step, building on top of them. And like the name says, it reverses the flow. It takes those refined, transformed insights from your warehouse or lake and loads them back into your operational tools, your CRM, your marketing platforms, support systems, maybe even specific SaaS tools your teams rely on.
Right, so the whole point is to operationalize the data, make it active. Instead of insights just living in dashboards for analysts, you're pushing them out so, say, the sales team or the marketing team can act on them directly. It helps speed up digital transformation, closes that loop between finding something out and doing something about it, getting the right data to the right people in the tools they're already using right when they need it. That does sound powerful.
It really is. And that's why we're seeing this big wave of momentum behind reverse ETL now. A huge driver is data democratization. Think about it. Before, business teams, sales, marketing, support, they were often waiting on a data team for reports, for lists, for insights, lots of bottlenecks. Reverse ETL kind of flips that. It gives these non-technical teams direct access to fresh, enriched data right inside their everyday tools, much less waiting around.
And you mentioned it fuels operational analytics. That's interesting. So data used to be mostly about looking back, right? Understanding past performance. How does reverse ETL really shift that focus towards driving future actions within those workflows? Can you give an example of that shift?
Yeah, it's about moving from being reactive to proactive. So if your sales team sees a customer's health score maybe calculated in the warehouse suddenly drop, they see it in the CRM right away, they can reach out. Or if marketing knows, like immediately when a user qualifies for a high-value segment based on recent activity, they can trigger a personalized offer, again, right from their marketing tool. It answers that why now question too. Organizations are using, as you said, dozens, sometimes hundreds of tools, so much siloed data. Reverse ETL helps tackle that. You centralize the data, refine it in the warehouse, and then push consistent, targeted data back out. It helps create that elusive 360-degree view.
And it automates things, getting rid of those awful manual CSV exports and what did you call it? The spaghetti pile of custom scripts.
Yeah.
Sounds like music to a data engineer's ears. Beyond just saving time, though, what's the strategic edge? What does that automation unlock for a business still doing things manually?
It's really about speed and responsiveness. Cutting out those manual steps, the CSV polls, the script maintenance, it saves a massive amount of time, obviously, and improves efficiency. But strategically, it enables near real-time updates. Think ad campaign results feeding back almost instantly, sales forecasts adjusting on the fly, customer behavior triggering immediate responses. It's not just about getting data in anymore, it's about getting the right data out and active so you can jump on opportunities or fix problems much faster.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Let's talk real-world impact, marketing teams, for example. How's reverse ETL changing things like segmentation and personalization?
Oh, it's huge for marketing. They can use all that rich behavioral and transactional data from the warehouse to build dynamic audiences that are always up to date. So take a car rental company. Maybe they automatically sync users who search for rentals in Spain into their email tool and their Facebook ads audience. But the moment that person actually books a car, Reverse ETL instantly pulls them out of that retargeting audience. No more annoying ads for something they already bought. Or look at Canva. They push data from Snowflake, their warehouse, into Braze, Salesforce, Facebook, Google Ads. They use it for really fine-grained segmentation, email personalization for their millions of users. It lets them run experiments super fast on ad targeting. It's personalization at scale, really.
That's way beyond just putting a first name in an email, and it helps with ad spend too, I assume.
Absolutely. Using your own first-party data, the data you collect directly synced from the warehouse to ad platforms. That's gold. You can build much better lookalike audiences. Or you can enrich the conversion data you send back to the ad platform so it optimizes better. So maybe a fashion retailer creates a lookalike audience in Meta based only on customers who've spent over, say, $500. You're targeting genuinely high-value prospects, less wasted spend.
And even something seemingly simple, like abandoned carts, using signals from the warehouse to trigger emails, maybe with a special offer. But crucially, stopping those emails the second the purchase happens. That seems small, but getting irrelevant emails is so annoying. How complex is that to actually set up with reverse ETL?
That's the beauty of it. If your data is well organized in the warehouse and you have a decent reverse ETL tool, it can be pretty straightforward. You define the trigger in your warehouse, cart active, no purchase in 30 minutes, whatever. Reverse ETL pushes that status to your email tool, purchase happens. The warehouse data updates, Reverse ETL pushes the purchase status, and the email tool stops the sequence, all automated. And for sales teams, think about pushing calculated scores or KPIs straight into the CRM, like a customer health score, or maybe identifying product-qualified leads PQLs based on usage data. It goes right into Salesforce or whatever CRM they use. Field reps can immediately see who to prioritize, how to tailor their outreach. Notion, the productivity tool company, does this. They push segments into Salesforce for lead scoring, helps them understand PQLs better. No more manually uploading email lists for campaigns.
Yeah, you can see how that would make a sales team's life so much easier. More effective, probably happier too, working with current data. And it's not just sales and marketing, right? Customer success, support teams can use this too.
Definitely. Think about churn prediction models. You build a model in your data science environment using warehouse data. Reverse ETL can sync those churn risk scores directly into the CRM or a customer success platform like Zendesk or Gainsight. So maybe a subscription box company sees declining engagement, fewer logins, skipped deliveries. That flags the account. The risk score gets synced to Zendesk, and it prompts an agent to proactively reach out, maybe offer a discount or some help. It shifts support from reactive to proactive.
And what about the data teams themselves? This must be good news for them too.
Oh, absolutely. It frees up data engineers from that constant treadmill of building and, crucially, maintaining custom API connections for every little request and fielding all those ad hoc requests. Can you pull me this list? Can I get this data in Salesforce? With Reverse ETL handling the delivery, they can actually focus on more strategic work, improving data quality, building better models, higher value stuff.
Okay, so if you're sold on the idea, how do you actually navigate this? How do you choose a tool or approach? Let's maybe touch on the challenges reverse ETL helps solve first. We mentioned data silos and inconsistency.
Right. Reverse ETL tackles that head on by making the warehouse the central source of truth and then distributing that consistent truth outwards.
And security compliance, always huge concerns with data movement.
Critical. Good reverse ETL platforms have strong security built-in encryption, role-based access controls. And they need to adhere to standards like GDPR, CCPA, IPA, SOC2. That compliance needs to cover the whole journey, warehouse to the destination tool.
Scalability too, I imagine. Data volumes aren't getting any smaller.
Exactly. The tools need to handle potentially massive amounts of data flowing constantly without slowing down or breaking. They need to scale efficiently as your data grows.
So when you're evaluating a reverse ETL tool, what are the absolute must-haves? What really matters in practice?
Well, beyond the basics, you need to look at the quality of the data connectors. It's not just about having hundreds of logos. Do they connect deeply to the tools you actually use, your CRM, marketing automation, support desk? Are they robust? Can they handle complex data schemas? Are they kept up to date as the APIs of those tools change? That's often where custom builds fall down.
That's a really good point about the depth, not just the breadth. What else is key?
Reliable, automated syncing is fundamental. You need it to just work accurately and on schedule, whether it's real-time or batched. And data observability and auditing is increasingly important. Can you track the health of your data syncs? Can you see freshness, volume, schema changes, get alerts if something breaks, have logs for troubleshooting? That transparency is vital.
Ease of use is probably big too, especially if you want non-technical teams involved.
For sure. User-friendly interfaces, maybe low-code or no-code options for setting up syncs. That really helps with adoption and democratizing the capability. And as we said, scalability and performance are non-negotiable. It has to keep up.
What about transformations? Does the reverse ETL tool need to do transformations itself?
Sometimes, yes. While the heavy lifting should ideally happen in the warehouse, you often need some light transformation or mapping capabilities within the reverse ETL tool itself. Things like formatting data correctly for the destination system, maybe some basic cleansing or enrichment right before it gets loaded. So having those data transformation capabilities is useful.
Yeah.
And again, security and compliance need to be rock solid from the vendor side.
Right, and don't forget support and documentation. When something inevitably goes sideways, you need good help available. And transparent pricing. You need to understand how you'll be charged. Is it per connector, per volume, per row, synced? Avoid surprises later.
Definitely. And it helps to quickly compare reverse ETL to the alternatives. You could build custom integrations. Total control, sure, but hugely expensive and time-consuming to build and especially to maintain.
Okay. Then there are IPS Hollow's Tools Integration Platform as a Service. They have connectors, automate workflows.
They do, but they often lack that deep focus on data warehouse insights. They might struggle with the specific transformations needed, and the pricing can escalate quickly with high data volumes. They're often more about application-to-application workflow than warehouse-to-application data flow.
What about CDP's customer data platforms? They unify customer data, right? How do they compare?
CDPs are interesting. They definitely aim to unify customer data. But some argue they can become another data silo, separate from your main warehouse where all business data lives. And they might not offer the same level of flexibility or transformation power as using your warehouse combined with a dedicated reverse ETL tool. They're typically customer data centric.
Gotcha. And the last one, just simple point-to-point integrations. Quick fix for one connection, maybe?
Yeah, quick but dangerous at scale. You end up with that spaghetti architecture, tons of brittle individual connections, totally unmanageable as you add more tools. Reverse ETL offers a much cleaner hub-and-spoke model from the warehouse.
So looking ahead, where does reverse ETL fit in the grand scheme of things?
It's really seen as a core component of what people are calling the modern data stack 2.0. It completes the loop. Data comes in, ETLT, gets stored and modeled in the warehouse, and then reverse ETL activates it, pushes it back out into the business applications. This creates this continuous cycle, enabling much faster, more accurate decisions based on fresh data.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
If
All
not-
that potential just locked up in warehouses. And this fits right into those broader data engineering trends we're seeing for, say, 2025, right? Like the huge demand for real-time data, the rise of AI and data tools for automation, for predictions, and that constant need for strong data governance, data contracts. It feels like it's all moving towards enabling faster, smarter actions across the board.
Exactly. Reverse ETL isn't just some niche tool or a passing fad. It's becoming a fundamental part of the data infrastructure. It changes the data warehouse from just a passive place for reports into an active engine driving operations and growth. It really empowers every team with high-quality, timely insights, helping build a genuinely data-driven culture.
So let's leave our listeners with a thought. If knowledge is power, then maybe actionable knowledge, knowledge put to work, is what really fuels growth. How could democratizing your data, getting it out of the warehouse and into the hands of your teams with reverse ETL, how might that fundamentally change the way you use information and drive results in your own work?